This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. That was surprisingly very entertaining for a Thursday night game, and all the right reasons, I should say, but all the wrong reasons. That's the exact same time.
I don't know what to say about what just happened.
Yeah,
Truly, I've been covering the NFL in some capacity since I think 2012, so
Okay.
It's been about a decade now. One of the weirder, wilder things I can remember.
Yeah.
The Rams signed a former number 1 overall pick who was cast off by the Carolina Panthers, who have been one of the most moribund franchises in the NFL for the last several seasons. He was released in week 14. Yeah. The Rams, who are absolutely cratering, the post Super Bowl hangover doesn't even begin to describe it. Aaron Donald's on the shelf. Cooper Kupp is on the shelf. Matthew Stafford got shut down. Even their backup quarterbacks are hurt. They sign him. And 36 hours after this figure who has been in our lives, whether it be at Oklahoma or in progressive commercials or in any hot take show you've watched over the last 2 years, comes into this team that's thrown in none of their starting receivers, can't name anybody playing on half the defense. And they somehow win this game in the final minute against the team that, if they had won in the Raiders, legitimately was going to be back in some sort of playoff race.
Yeah.
That's what just happened. Thursday night football, baby.
The Raiders were on an upward trajectory, and it just the win expectancy chart was it's perfectly about the Raiders season. Okay, they have it, and just cratered off completely right there. The fact that Skarsgård was the star of the last drive.
Happy. I was so happy.
Dunked on him. Just a great catch, actual legitimately great play, not just a little morbid curiosity with him playing fullback or anything. Tutu Atwell, a season 1 character on this show, can make an appearance, or season 2 maybe. Poochie, he makes an appearance. Oh man, this had everything. I was enjoying this so much, and I had so many notes on what the Raiders did against the Chargers. I'm like, man, they're really putting it together. They're really figuring out this offense, and then just their second half drives, 3-and-out, field goal, 3-and-out, interception, not including a red zone interception. That was absolutely bizarre. I know he got pressure on him, Derek Carr, but what a game. That was actually surprisingly entertaining. I enjoyed every single minute of it.
So let's talk about Baker for a second before we talk about the actual football. Okay. So Beller just reminded us it was a 98-yard drive. That,
oh my God,
wouldn't have happened if Jerry Tillery hadn't slapped the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands.
That's right. It's just, there's so much.
There's so many layers to this. Yeah. So the Baker thing, I don't want to get too overexcited here. There's a 41-yard pass interference on Tutu Atwell that gets them in range for the first touchdown. And then Jerry Tillery has to have that penalty to even give them a chance for those 2 throws. They're beautiful throws. The guy can rip it. The guy has an arm. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. Okay.
It's outside the numbers. That's
yes.
But he can.
I mean, the guy can throw a football, and those were dimes. There's no denying that.
Right.
So the Rams are in this place where they just signed Baker Mayfield. Next year, I think a lot of indications are that Matthew Stafford may not be back. They may be seeking around for a quarterback. And we've seen this team be relatively successful with Jared Goff in the past. Baker Mayfield in a play action heavy offense where all you're asking him to do is rip over routes that are coming at him. He can do some of that. It's where and when he was successful in Cleveland. So I don't want to get too far down that road, but this marriage, if it's a marriage of convenience and desperation, I guess kind of makes sense. And I think that's part of what you saw tonight. But it's important to remember, I don't even know how he understood the plays. I don't know how he ran the 2-minute drill at the end when they were doing the hurry up. He's been there for a day.
I know. That's actually remarkable.
Remember when Sam Bradford got traded to the Vikings in 2017
week 1 or week
and he
2,
started 7 days later and he threw for 3 touchdowns against the Saints, and everyone was like, holy shit, he's only been there for a week. How did he do this? Baker Mayfield was there for 1 day.
Thursday night game. So there's no real practice either. That was just walk there. One walk, half walk there. No. Man. So when he first lined up in the first quarter, I was like, oh, so this is how you're doing it. It looked like early Goff offense where they break the huddle really early and you could see McVay just talking and talking and talking and talking. I'm like, oh man, you're just playing. He had the video game controller. But then all of a sudden they kind of did where, hey, come to the sideline kind of plays. So I was like, oh, we're doing everything. McVay looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. Like, I think he was just like,
He probably hasn't, honestly.
Right? He's like, let's see what happens here. But it was hilarious. Okay. So the Sam Bradford reference, that's a great one because Kirk Herbstreit is acting like this should be a Hollywood story. So like bring it up an actual, this happened in the NFL, like relatively kind of the same, even though that 7 days and 1 day is a completely different thing. But let's just talk about that as well. But that it was like, this is just another week in the NFL. Something crazy like this happens, but it is freaking hilarious that it's Baker Mayfield, who's like been a main character for so long for the last few years.
So this sent me down a hole in the third quarter when the Raiders were up by 2 scores, and I just assumed they were going to win in not exciting fashion, and we weren't going to have a ton of stuff to talk about in this outside of the fact that the Raiders are just probably kind of disappointing. So the weirdest Thursday night games of the past decade, quarterback wise. Okay. All right. There's some good ones. Remember Jeff Toole?
Yeah.
So Jeff Toole only played in 2 games. One of them was in relief for EJ Manuel in a Thursday night game in 2013. He went 8 for 20. He was only in the league for like a year. So that was for a weird Bills team in 2013 when they drafted EJ Manuel in the first round. Thad Lewis was their backup.
Yeah.
Remember Thad Lewis from Duke, but he got hurt. So Jeff Toole had to play in that game and then had to start another game.
Yep.
Kyle Orton also started a Thursday night game for the Bills. Remember when Kyle Orton signed with the Bills
my God, that's
like
right.
2014 and then started like 12 games for the Bills. It was a very good one. Michael Vick in 2015, one of his 3 starts for the Steelers. One was a Thursday night.
That's
game.
right. He came back.
We got Michael Vick on the Steelers.
And they messed up a signal. They messed up a signal on like a 3rd or 4th down. That's right.
Cody Kessler has started 2 Thursday night games, one for the Jags, one for the Browns. Do you remember that Matt Castle played for the Cowboys?
No.
That happened in 2015 when Tony Romo got hurt. They traded for Matt Castle, and Matt Castle had to start several games for them.
I actually don't remember that. That's funny. Didn't Sanchez start for them that year too, or something?
Sanchez started later. Sanchez actually started multiple Thursday night games for the Eagles. Do you recall that Mark Sanchez played for the Eagles? Because I barely do remember that.
I do actually, because we actually used a part of that film with Bill Musgrave with the Raiders. We actually used some like Eagles stuff with that. So that's the only reason I know that.
The reason I list all of this off is it speaks to the glorious tapestry of Thursday night football over the last decade.
I got one of the best ones. It involved the Bears. It was that Bears-Panthers game in 2010. Todd Collins versus Jimmy Clausen.
Oh, that was a Sunday game.
No, I thought that was a Thursday. Wasn't it Thursday?
Absolutely not. That was a Sunday game at 12 noon. I remember watching it vividly. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Trust me, that game is seared into my brain.
There was a Thursday game that Todd Collins started. I swear. I could have sworn it was that game.
If you guys have never seen the box score of that 2010
it's an all-timer.
Panthers Bears game, please go look at it. Todd Collins, I believe I'm doing this from memory, threw 4 interceptions in that game, and the Bears won by 2 scores.
He went 6 for 16 for 32 yards with 4 interceptions, and they won.
Yeah, and the Bears won by 2 scores.
One hands down. Yeah, it was a day game. Damn it, man! I remember Todd Collins.
I remember watching that game vividly. Julius Peppers had an insane interception, which he did a lot of insane shit that year. All right,
exactly.
So I don't know what this means for Baker and for the Rams moving forward. Again, Baker Mayfield, even in Cleveland, and there's a chance that they were saying this stuff because it was the right thing to say, even before they made the Deshaun Watson trade and when they were kind of wading into their off season. Their stance on him was always, you can win with Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker Mayfield is one of the best 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And whatever you think of Baker Mayfield, he's had stretches when surrounded and placed in a good offensive ecosystem where he has been a functional NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's what he would be. That's what he would have with the Rams if they were to figure something out where, again, if out of desperation or convenience, that had to be their decision next year, who the heck knows. But if there's going to be one place where he looks like a functioning quarterback, I think in LA with Sean McVay, who's had to play this game before, that's probably the spot.
Right. I totally agree. That's even if the line's not there and he's throwing to Skarsgård and Tutu Atwell and all that, it's at least like all the offense is going to be sound. It's not a spread it out with Bob McAdoo. It's not or Ben Bob McAdoo. Ben
It
McAdoo
might as well be
offense.
Bob McAdoo at
Yeah,
this
the
point.
offense throwing those long passes on the inbound. But no, but it's one of those that well, I mean, this is the same guy, McVay. He took a chance on Bortles as a backup quarterback. Like he wants these feathers in his cap to go like, hey, I got these retreads and see what I could do. So I actually think this guy can put it together, this guy being McVay, more than most other guys. We're also going to see it in San Fran right now with with Mr. Irrelevant as their Mr. Immaculate. I'm just losing my mind this Thursday night show, but Mr. Irrelevant as their quarterback. So like, it's kind of like they're having like a little controller off, like, hey, let's see who can play on the hardest difficulty. So I think McVay is actually probably going to like this the next couple of weeks. Like, say what I can do that other guys haven't been able to do with this quarterback.
All right, let's talk about the Raiders because that was disgusting.
Oh
So early in the game plan made sense, even if it was a little bit strange. There was a breaking case of emergency on 3rd and long whenever they needed to hit a shot or just third down period. Whenever they needed a shot to Devontae Adams, they could just do it whenever they wanted against Jalen Ramsey in the first half. So they hit 2 chunks to Devontae Adams. They handed the ball to Josh Jacobs like 15 times. Yep. And then the other thing that they were doing at will was getting the ball to the perimeter on the outside.
Yep.
Poor Michael Hoyt, who I don't know if you could tell, but if Kirk Herbstreit knew who that was, and he knew that he used to be a defensive tackle, so we were hearing a lot about it. And they hit him outside like 4 or 5 different times in the first half of that game.
That's inside the ad.
Reverses to Mac Hollins. They ran a little a screen to Amir Abdullah on 3rd down. They ran a draw at one point on 3rd down. I mean, they were just going at it. And if the Raiders come away with points in that final drive of the second half, where Carr throws that bizarre interception, they score 16 points in the first half. And they come away from the first half like, all right, they're rolling over them. You know, who the hell knows what's going to happen? That interception, I don't know if you saw the all 22 angle of it. I have no idea what coverage the Rams are playing. They did something else really funky on another 3rd down red zone coverage where they kicked a field goal in the second half. It was that completion to Abdullah or maybe it was an incompletion, but he had to check it down to Abdullah and they had to kick a field goal. So some funky coverages down there twice on 3rd down, one of which resulted in a horrendous interception. And it's Derek Carr, like you said, and the Raiders in general have been playing pretty well on offense over the last month or so. I mean, this is a team that was 8th in weighted DVOA on offense. 11th. They were 11th in offensive weighted DVOA, and they're like 7th in EPA per play on offense. They played a terrible schedule, which is what explains that difference. But they were moving the ball really well. And then he throws that horrendous interception at the end of the first half. They come out in the second half. I joked about it at the time. First drive, I believe, 3rd and 5, Carr scrambles, 4th and 1 from midfield, and they punt. It's like, okay. And it's one of those moments where they punt. I joke about it. And somebody responded on Twitter. It's like, well, they're playing against Baker Mayfield. Wouldn't it make sense to play field position? If you're playing against an offense that can't move the ball, it makes sense to not care about field position.
Slit their throats. Yeah.
You only have so many possessions in a game. It's 4th and 1 from midfield. End the game.
Yeah.
At that point, it's 13-3. It might have been 16. It's 13-3 at that point. You score a touchdown, the game is over. Instead, they punt it back and they let things kind of linger. The next 3rd down that they have is a 3rd and 2. Deep shot for Adams falls incomplete. Those are 2 3 and outs. And they allow the Rams to crawl back into the game. And it's just incredibly frustrating when you think about what sort of flashes this Raiders offense has shown. I know that Jacobs got hurt, was dinged up a little bit in this game, whatever. But to have this outcome, another one
27
like this,
carries, didn't act like he was dinged up.
I mean, when you have these sort of flashes on offense and you see what their elite players can do, and then again, Crosby on the other side, and he got held a bunch in this game, a lot of things to consider, but just one of those moments where you realize why on the whole this Raiders season is going to end up being disappointing is that we've had too many of these.
Yeah, exactly. I think even at the end, the little graphic flash, it was like this is their 4th loss this year when they've been leading by 13 points or more just in one season, which was like the NFL record. I mean, that's remarkable. 13-point lead in the NFL is, man, that's golden right there. And the fact that you have multiple losses, much less the record. And that's the thing. I mean, you're at 4th and 1. You're playing against Baker Mayfield, who just signed a day and a half ago. Even if you're not happy with how the defense has been playing, which you should be. I mean, like Max Crosby is unblocked, even for the stuff that all the penalties they didn't call. I mean, he is like literally unblockable. They can't run the ball really against you. And they're, Derek Carr's throwing 11 for 20 for 137 yards and 2 picks. Like I know the last one was in the 2-minute drill, but it's one of those where shouldn't you guys just be like dunking on guys when you want to in these third down situations? The got to have it. You have Devontae Adams. That's why you trade for him and pay him that much money. And that's why you paid Derek Carr, even though his contract's kind of like goofy. You're still paying him money. Those are your best players. This was the same argument last week in a totally different type of spotlight because there was 2 really good teams going at as opposed to 2 kind of zombie teams. Was Chiefs and Bengals. Like, wouldn't you want your MVP candidate, multi-million, like heavy $1 million quarterback to like go for it, and like that's who you put the decision into, and all the chips to Patrick Mahomes? I think that's the same thing to a lesser extent, even if it is Derek Carr, whatever you want to consider him. It's like I trust Derek Carr and Devontae Adams more than like whatever the Rams can do. Like I know that's like. Yeah, I mean, that's where I would be at. I think you have an advantage no matter how you sit it. You're 6.5 point favorites. Yes, you don't know that, but you do live in Vegas. You should maybe know that. But it's one of those that it's like you have to know these situations. You have to stomp on them. You don't let these teams linger. It's the NFL. Guys have pride. Did you see Bobby Wagner yelling at the guard that got the penalty? Like they're into it. Like this team's into it. They're at home. They're pissed off. There's a bunch of Raiders fans there. It's like you can't let them linger. You just can never do that.
And even the decision to kind of put them in one-on-one situations near the end there. I mean, to like give him those kinds of throws, they're going to take them. And they had guys that made plays. Yep. So the Rams now potentially have Baker Mayfield for the next month, which is just still weird.
It is the season.
It's still weird. I mean, for the Rams especially, I mean, the fact that the offensive line is in absolute tatters for the entire year, and they've had a different offensive line combination every single week. But the one guy who's played this entire season is their supposedly above average right tackle who looks totally lost. I mean, it just speaks to the nature of this season for the Rams that even the guys that we thought we could count on theoretically, you haven't been able to count on. I mean, Max Crosby was absolutely toasting him consistently or getting held on half of those plays. So whatever the state of the Rams season is, I don't think it really matters outside of maybe something weird happens with Baker Mayfield over the next month. And something weird has certainly started.
I know it kind of stinks because they don't have any like early picks that you keep an eye on. Like, I want maybe Ernest Jones. I'm going to keep an eye on him a little bit, but also what are you going to say?
Well, so speaking of early picks, a lifetime Los Angeles Rams fan, Robert Mays, was very excited when Baker Mayfield threw that touchdown at the end. Huge fan of the Rams.
Clears it up a little bit, huh?
So. Really, really hope that they just keep on rolling. Now, Baker's great. If they really rally behind him, he's got a lot of chutzpah to him.
Stacking wins, huh?
I'm really pumped about the short-term future of the Los Angeles Rams here.
Cheering for them and the Broncos.
I am a fan of the number 2 overall pick. That is what I'm a fan of. And so the Broncos and Rams want to stack up a few wins here. The Broncos play the Rams.
Oh.
On Christmas Day.
Oh, so it's like a little treat for you, huh?
Can you imagine opening gifts with your family? Plus, I love Christmas. My dad loved Christmas. It's big for our family, and we still do Christmas morning together, and it's so pleasant. And I just love doing it with my brothers. It's a great day. And you imagine you have that beautiful family moment, have a nice little lunch, sit around the TV, maybe watch a Christmas movie early in the morning. And then the next thing that comes on your TV is this version of Russell Wilson against the Los Angeles Rams with Baker Mayfield. That's what's coming.
And you actually enjoying it, like, because there's actually like you have.
I mean, that's probably a stretch, but that is
it's a stocking stuffer. That's what we're gonna consider it.
That is a good
is that
point.
right, Beller? Is this on Nickelodeon? It actually is.
That's absolutely horrifying.
That's
those poor children. Think about again. Kids having a wonderful moment, a wonderful memory that they're going to make with their families on Christmas Day, and it's just completely torpedoed by Baker Mayfield against Russell Wilson.
I'm kind of laughing because that was my kind of joke, was that Baker is Russ without the athleticism.
There are a lot of layers. Just peeling back like an onion here.
It's perfect.
So the best part of this is that again, the Rams are not good. Like this is one of those games that the Broncos could theoretically win, and Bears are already at 10 losses, baby. We got to buy this week. I can't believe so. I said we. Jesus, it's late. Bears got to buy this week. Like we're doing well here. So that's what the short-term future of the Rams and Baker Mayfield. That's the most interesting part about that. I am fascinated by the decision that the Raiders are going to have to make when this is all said and done. They are now out of playoff contention.
Yes.
Losses like this, I think, send you down a path. You're like, man, this is not good. We've had some flashes, but this is not good. And moments like this, games like this, if we get 2 or 3 more of them, 2 or 3 more losses, they feel down about themselves by the end of the season. Is this it for Derek Carr in Las Vegas? And if it is it for Derek Carr in Las Vegas, what does that mean for the quarterback carousel this spring?
Right. I mean, that's something you've hinted at when we're talking about other teams. It's always like, Derek Carr might be there. I mean, that contract was quote unquote an extension, but they get out. It's only $5 million cap or dead cap. They get out of it, like trading him or cutting him. Like it is very easy to move.
He has a no trade clause.
Yeah.
So they might just have to cut him.
Right.
Which,
how much?
Who is outside of Tom Brady, right? Like Tom Brady is obviously
the obvious one.
The obvious one. Is there been a free agent quarterback over the last 5 years who was as good as Derek Carr?
Well, no, you're getting into the Cousins tier. And that's,
so when Cousins was a free agent in 2018,
that's probably
that's probably
the same tier. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cousins got a 3-year, I believe, $84 million fully guaranteed contract in free agency. So if Derek Carr is that sort of player, like in that sort of tier, I know he's a little bit older now and considerations there, but that still is like a pretty good free agent quarterback. So the Rams or the Raiders deciding theoretically or possibly to move on from him for nothing.
You better have something aligned. You better have something waiting in the wings. Well, that's the thing too. That's why it's such a weird team, because they make the push for Davante Adams, and there's all the talk of, Derek Carr and Davante Adams are best friends from Fresno and all this. And then also they already have come out. Oh yeah, we can't, even though they threatened Josh McDaniels at like the Titans Stadium, I think it was, hey, all this. And then it's come out like, oh yeah, Mark Davis can't fire Josh McDaniels because he can't afford to. Like literally doesn't have the cash to afford a new coaching contract and coaching salary. So they're in this weird state. And like, what's disappointing, I mean, I know we're going to talk about all this offseason stuff, but it's like a guy like Max Crosby, who's putting together a legit defensive player of the year season. Like he'll get no sniffs at it because they're just like, oh, the Raiders suck. Like he just gets pushed aside. And that's just how kind of the nature of the beast is. But it's like, this is a weird, strange team. You don't sign Chandler Jones to trade for Davante Adams to go, oh yeah, we're resetting a year later.
I agree. And that's why how they do this is going to be so fascinating to watch, because they have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
They're going to be picking pretty high. They're going to have a decent amount of cap space, because if they move on from Carr and they get cheaper at quarterback, I don't know how much cheaper it's going to be if it's a veteran, or where they even try to find a quarterback. Are they one of those teams that if they're sitting there picking right now, as it currently stands, they're 5-8, they would have the 10th overall pick. Okay. The quarterback class better than I do. Is there going to be...
It's an eye of the beholder draft. So that's the thing. So there's about 3 guys though that are probably all getting lottery picking, consideration. So it's like that they're going to be right in the realm of one.
So maybe they're in a spot where they really want one because they move on from Carr and they feel a little bit desperate. They move up to get one. So now you reset with a rookie quarterback contract. And I know that the Davante Adams decision seems like a misalignment with the timeline if you have a young quarterback. But I really do think that what we've seen recently with adding a receiver like that and what it does for a young quarterback is really, really important. So I do think that these pieces, with the amount of money you can spend in free agency, if you do go to a rookie quarterback and you save all that money, I'd be curious what this Raiders team would look like in that timeline, where they have all this financial flexibility. They have a young quarterback now, and Max Crosby and Davante Adams and Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller are now the infrastructure for a young quarterback, rather than this veteran-laden team where you're pushing it forward with Derek Carr. And obviously they're going to have resources to potentially reload the offensive line next year. Like, I don't know. I'd be scared to move on from somebody like that. I understand why you would, because maybe you cap out a certain ceiling, but it's always that what is waiting around the corner, and that quarterback wilderness and the darkness is frightening to people. But this team with a young quarterback that hits, and Josh McDaniels, who I think again has shown he's a pretty good offensive football coach this year with a certainly imperfect offense. I mean, it's Derek Carr, Josh Adams, Devontae Adams, and what? Colt Miller.
Yeah,
I mean, that's it. And they've actually been a pretty good offense so far. So it's been a disappointing year, but they're still intriguing to me. And the quarterback decision that's looming and what that might mean for them is a huge part of that.
Yeah, like let's keep kicking the can, like kind of thing. Because that's I think how you presented it right there, that the night the darkness is full of terrors, like you're scary, full of terrors. That's kind of what it is. It's like going into that QB realm and the leap of faith. And if one of those young quarterbacks, say they do take a chance on Will Levis from Kentucky, and who is definitely an eye of the beholder type of quarterback in this draft, and he's flaky early and not scattershot early, and it looks like a miss. Imagine the rest of the team that is veteran laden, how they're going to feel. Oh, wow, we moved on from so-and-so. Like that Devontae Adams, Derek Carr relationship is something you have to monitor, because it's like that was part of the appeal of all this. Whatever, however you want to stack that. So how would he going like, you just got rid of my boy to start this guy? And like, no, what, you're just wasting another year of my career? Like all these considerations are just going to be massive. It's a fascinating team. Like, and for a team that everyone kind of like broad brushed him. I did Mike Golick's show, and he asked like, which team would you feel kind of like the worst about in the AFC West? I should have just said Broncos. I mean, come on. But I kind of was like, well, the Raiders, because I don't know what they are. They're kind of competing, but they're kind of not. They don't have a roster to kind of compete. So I don't know what they are. And I still feel that way. They are the choose your adventure team right now. And I'm really fascinated what they're going to do in the next couple months.
The only rough contract they're really locked into is the Chandler Jones contract. I mean, they paid a lot for Chandler Jones. Other than that, I mean, they've paid Renfro, they've paid Waller, they've obviously paid Crosby, but you'll do that 100 times over again. Yeah, everybody on the defense is young. There's nobody that's really expensive. They didn't sign that many big contracts this offseason. They have flexibility. They have pathways to somewhere else in a way that the Broncos
all these
don't.
Contracts are manageable. Like you just look at each one. You look at
Al Nichols is really the only multi-year deal they signed that has a lot of, or not even a lot, but some dead money remaining on it after this year outside of the Jones contract on defense, I believe.
But then he's even after 2023, he's done like that. Yeah. It's only one more year. So it's like, it's not, it's not like a full pot. It's not an Allen Robinson contract.
The last thing to consider here, quarterback wise, before we wrap this up, Tom Brady's a free agent.
That's the one.
So we talk about the rookie and doing that, and Tom Brady's a free agent. And Tom Brady, if he were to sign with the Raiders next spring, because he can, I don't think is going to be making much more than Derek Carr is right now. I mean, Brady has shown he doesn't really care about that over time. You think about the deal he signed with the Bucs. So if you can get Tom Brady for what you were paying Derek Carr, and now you have a couple of those pieces, and you don't have to worry about resetting with some of those veterans. And that's also an interesting way to go about this. So
he is, he has a great relationship with Josh McDaniels. He really respects him. Las Vegas does not have state income tax, or Nevada
there you go.
doesn't. That's another sign of the field. Oh, it's great. And then on top of it, there's a lot of Vegas sightings of Tom Brady here. So, he really digs the city. So that's maybe like a download thing. That's the thing about Vegas too. It's actually kind of like a small town feel to it. Like everyone kind of knows each other because of just the small industry. Town. Well, when you look at the metropolis, look at the metropolitan numbers.
It's not Chicago or New York. Like American cities. It is a smaller American city.
But it's bigger than what you would think, or smaller than what I think people blanketed as, painted as. But that's the thing. Is like there's some, that Tom Brady Vegas connection is a little warmer, I think, than people realize. No one quote me on this in 2 months. No one point this out. I'm saying on my whim and just saying I've got feeling. I'm looking at knowing what I know about from Vegas Twitter.
I'm looking at the list right now. Las Vegas is not one of the 25 biggest cities in America.
It isn't.
No.
That's because most people are in Henderson.
Oh, it's 25th. It's 25th.
Hey,
it's 25th. Las Vegas is smaller than El Paso.
Wow. Is it actually?
Yes.
Bigger than like Buffalo, though. We got that. Hey, we're gonna get all four major sports teams. We're gonna get an MLS team. It is much bigger than Buffalo. So yes.
All right. We'll see what happens with Tom Brady and his mid-market city that he might be going to this offseason to play for Josh McDaniels. What a night. What a night with Baker Mayfield. Just one of those things that you'll never forget. The NFL never ceases to amaze, to satisfy. This is just an incredible moment. Very glad that we could be a part of it and share it together.
It's so magical. I mean, and as Kirk put it, it felt like a Hollywood moment, not just because of how Baker performed, but I think we all won when Skarsgård is dunking on guys, and I was like, that was it for me. Yeah, someone said in the comments, there's a night football forever. I hope we always do this. This is always great.
All right, that's all we got. As always, guys, sincerely appreciate you listening. If you have not listened to our Thursday night preview, it's 11 p.m.
I said Metropolis, like as I talk about the metropolitan area.
If you have not listened to our Week 14 preview in the podcast feed or watched it here on YouTube, encourage you guys to do that. Really fun show today. We dug into all of the big games from this week, so please go check that out. If you have not, please go listen to Prospects to Pros with Dane and Andy. It came out on Wednesday. Football GM with Mike Sando and Randy Mueller came out on Thursday. If you guys have not been listening to those, really encourage you to do so. Please subscribe to The Athletic. TheAthletic.com/football show is where you can do that. We will be back on Sunday nights, recapping an entire slate of games. Until then, appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.